Hey everyone, have you ever wondered how the whole world got started? Well, the very first book of the Bible is called Genesis, which literally means the beginning, and it is packed with incredible adventures, amazing promises, and one big kind of tricky family. Let's dive in and explore it together.
Have you ever looked way, way up at the stars at night, or maybe watched a tiny little bug crawling on a leaf, and just thought, how did all this get here? Well, that's exactly what Genesis is all about. And it's a story that's even more amazing than any fairy tale you've ever heard. Okay, so our story starts at the very, very beginning. Before anything existed, there was just God. And God had this wonderful idea to create a beautiful, perfect world that was just bursting with light and life.
And it all happened so fast. God just spoke and bam, amazing things started appearing. First, there was light to separate the daytime from the nighttime. Then, poof, a giant blue sky and deep, splashing seas. After that, land popped up, and it was covered in soft green grass and colorful flowers and huge trees. And to top it all off, God put the bright sun in the sky for the day and the glowing moon and all those sparkly stars for the night.
So now the world was all set up, kind of like a beautiful painting. But it was a little quiet, so God filled it with life. He made fish to swim in the sea, birds to fly through the sky, and all kinds of animals to walk on the land, from huge roaring lions to tiny little caterpillars. And he gave them all a perfect home called the Garden of Eden.
Then God made the very first people. Their names were Adam and Eve, and their job was to enjoy this amazing new world and to take really good care of everything. They had everything they could ever want. God gave them only one single rule, and it was super simple. He said, "You can eat fruit from any tree in this whole garden, just not that one. The one right in the middle. That's it."
But, one day, a sneaky snake convinced them to break that one little rule. And because they made that choice, they couldn't stay in the perfect Garden of Eden anymore. Now that was a sad day for sure, but it was also the start of a whole new adventure for them, and for everyone who came after.
So, time went on, and the world filled up with lots and lots of people. But a lot of them, well, they just weren't being very kind to each other. God saw that things weren't going so well and decided the world needed a fresh start, like a big reset button. And that's where our next awesome story kicks off.
Now, in the whole wide world, there was this one guy named Noah. And Noah was a good dude. He loved God and he always tried to do the right thing. Because he had such a good heart, God picked him for a very, very important job. God gave Noah this huge to-do list. First, build a boat, but not just any boat, a giant one called an ark. It was basically a floating zoo. Second, get your whole family together and ready to get on board. And third, this is the best part, he had to find two of every single animal in the world, a boy and a girl, and bring them on the boat too. Can you just imagine that parade?
As soon as everyone was safe inside, it started to rain. And it didn't just drizzle. It rained, and it just kept raining for 40 days and 40 nights. The whole world was covered in water. But Noah and his family and all those animals, they were totally safe and dry, just floating along in their awesome ark.
When the rain finally stopped and the water went away, Noah and everyone else came out into a fresh, clean world. And right then, God put a beautiful rainbow up in the sky. It was a promise that he would never, ever flood the whole world like that again. So, next time you see a rainbow, you can remember that really special, colorful promise God made. Okay, so fast forward many, many years. The world is full of people again, and this time, God found another man to make a really special promise to. His name was Abraham, and his story is, well, it's pretty amazing.
One night, God took Abraham outside and said, "Hey, look up at the sky. Try to count all those stars." Of course, he couldn't. There were way too many. Then God told him, "That's how big your family is going to be." Now, this was a wild promise, because Abraham and his wife Sarah were super old, and they didn't have any kids at all.
But you know what? With God, anything is possible. And believe it or not, God's promise came true. Abraham and Sarah had a baby boy, and they named him Isaac. It was a total miracle. And it was the very start of that giant family that God promised would be as big as the number of stars in the sky. And just like God said, Abraham's family got bigger. Isaac grew up and had kids of his own. But you know how families can be sometimes. Well, they had their own arguments and some pretty tricky moments too.
So Isaac had twin boys named Esau and Jacob. Esau was born first. He was a big, strong hunter who loved being outside. Jacob was the second son, and he was a little quieter, and also a bit of a trickster. One time Jacob actually tricked his brother Esau and his own dad to get a special family blessing that was supposed to go to the older brother.
Well, after that, Jacob had to run away from his angry brother. But even then, God gave him an incredible dream and made him the very same promise he had made to his grandpa Abraham. And Jacob's family got big. He ended up having 12 sons. These 12 sons would later become the leaders of the 12 tribes of Israel. But out of all of them, Jacob had one son who was his absolute favorite, Joseph.
And this brings us to one of the most famous stories in the whole book of Genesis. It's all about Jacob's favorite son, Joseph, a kid who had amazing dreams and a super colorful coat.
Okay, so Joseph's life was a total roller coaster. First, his dad gave him this awesome, colorful coat, but it made his 10 older brothers so jealous that they did something terrible. They sold him to some traders who were on their way to Egypt. But even when things seemed awful, God was still with Joseph. He gave him this cool ability to understand what dreams meant. And this gift actually got him in front of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And get this, Pharaoh was so impressed, he made Joseph the second most powerful person in the whole country. Joseph used his smarts to save everyone from a huge food shortage. And then, in a crazy twist, his brothers showed up in Egypt looking for food. And Joseph, he forgave them. He forgave them for everything.
That's pretty much what Joseph told his brothers. He said, "You guys meant to do something really bad to me, but God turned it around and used it for something good." He realized God had a plan all along to save their whole family. Isn't that amazing, how something really bad can turn into something wonderful?
So Joseph brought his dad, Jacob, and all his brothers and all their families to come live safely with him in Egypt. That giant family that God had promised Abraham way back when, well, they were all together again, safe and sound in a brand new home. And that's right where the book of Genesis ends.
Wow. So, from a perfect garden to a boat full of animals to a promise bigger than all the stars and a dreamer who saved his whole family, Genesis is just the beginning of one giant story. So what do you think happens next in this incredible adventure?
If you had a great time exploring Genesis with us, do us a favor and hit that thumbs up button. And to make sure you don't miss out on what happens next, click subscribe and join our Through the Bible family.
And hey, we really want to know what you think. Jump down into the comments and tell us which Bible story you want us to explain next. We put out new videos every single day, so there's always another adventure right around the corner. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you in the next one.